Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, and today is Monday Fun Day.
I stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image of me that you're used to. I look money, a king bee making honey, see? Deep state, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round, I'm the new sheriff in town. All my people rise up and stand your ground. Now drink up all the Diet Coke you got on your shelf. So just let me introduce myself, my name is Trump D. I like my mashed potatoes lumpy. Fake news, oh how I like to punk thee. That little sniper on the slope tin, he took a shot but he missed me. I don't fall, y'all, I'm like the ever ready bunny. Still going strong and spunky. So put on your big boy pants. Come on, let's do the dance.
The Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpy Trump. Come on and do the Trumpy Trump. Check me out, y'all. We do the Trumpy Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpy Trump. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpy Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpy Trump. It's time to do the Trumpy Trump. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's always a fun day, fun way to start off the week doing the Trumpy dance because, well, let's just be honest. So much of the news these days is all about Donald Trump, good or bad, whether you like him or whether you dislike him. That's who you're going to hear a lot about. And even the peripheral issues that we discuss, well, let's just say that if it's good, if it's going well for the country, Democrats are either going to deny it or they're going to say, or they're either going to deny that it's really good or they're not going to give credit to Donald Trump. We experienced that. Then if it's bad, they're going to blame it all on Donald Trump. And then they're gonna, it doesn't really matter what it is, whether he had anything to do with it. They're gonna lay it at his feet anyway. And by the way, if it's good, he's gonna take credit for it, and if it's not, he's gonna blame the Democrats. So, kind of works both ways. But anyway, it's all about Donald Trump. At least a lot of the news that we're going to be talking about today. But some very interesting things I think that we are going to be finding out about. So we're gonna have a good time. Mike is going to be off this week, so I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to be here only Monday through Wednesday. As I had stated before, we have a commitment to do 200 episodes minimum a year. And we had taken some time off during the year and realized, wow, if I don't do an episode every day for every weekday for the rest of the month, I'm not going to hit my 200 episodes. So on New Year's Eve, we will be doing our 200th episode this year. Mind you, we are currently on episode 1034. So many episodes that we have done over the last 5 years, having a great time. We'll be coming back. We'll be coming back on Monday. I believe that's the 5th, and we'll be coming back and we'll be starting season 6 of the Rundown. Not a lot of shows last that long. In particular, not a lot of daily programs, right? Programs that are on Monday through Friday. And the fact that we've been able to accomplish that in my book is a pretty big deal. So I hope it's a big deal in your book. If you haven't already done so, please make sure like, share, subscribe. Encourage your friends to do the same. If you're watching the program live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble, on Twitter, would love to hear from you. Would love to hear what you have to say. I'm actually following your comments right over here. If I find them to be interesting, we will go ahead and share them. If I do not, then I won't. And trust me, you don't have to agree. In fact, it's always better when you disagree with us because it gives us a real reason to, to mock you.
Oh, wow. Is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right. And we mock you not because we're trying to be rude or not because we're trying to be mean, but because it's entertaining. Specifically, it's entertaining for me. But I also think for our audience, and it's all done in good fun, shall we say. All done in fairness. Because I am sure you guys don't hold back on your comments either. So we always have a good time. All right, now, before we get into it, we're going to do the thing that we usually do, and you know what that is. We're going to start off with a quick shout-out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for your AR platform rifle. They're available at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. Now, if you've purchased an AR in the last few years, there's a pretty good chance you already have one of their barrels, so why not get another one? Whether you're looking to do a brand new build or you're looking to rebarrel your old rifle, start your search, start your journey, start your experience at hitmanindustries.net. And then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan himself once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. Find out why by visiting their website at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. That would be at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. Why is it spelled that way? Well, because they like to help Americans wear guns. They like it so much, they're going to give you a discount. If you use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, they're going to give you a sweet little discount. So check them out today at hogholsters.com. And then you've got the best in tactical gear available on the market. As the weather changes, as the seasons change, as conditions change, you need new gear, right? Why not go to the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun? That would be uscombatgear.com. They have a huge selection. They have deep discounts, in particular for group pricing. They specialize in group sales. So go to their website, check them out today. They have the best customer service available on the market. Get your agency together, get your group together, get your department together, and get what you need at uscombatgear.com, where you can find all things tactical except the gun. All right. Oh, heading the wrong way on that one. Let's go all the way back up to the top. There we go. Okay. What's behind the Christmas strike that took place? Now, you probably heard about this. Donald Trump actually, on Christmas Day, decided to, or at least had planned, maybe he decided ahead of Christmas Day, but decided to, on Christmas Day, launch an attack on terror groups that are there in Nigeria, who are actually currently engaged in a genocide there in Nigeria against Christians. Now, interestingly enough, the folks over at Democracy Now! Decided, well, they don't believe anything having to do with the fact that this was a Christian genocide. In fact, they're saying it was all to appease their MAGA base. And let's see what they had to say about that. It says here, President Trump says U.S. strikes in Nigeria on Christmas Day were aimed at ISIS fighters and part of a campaign to stop supposed anti-Christian genocide in the country. But residents of the area say there is no recorded history of anti-Christian terrorism, and organizations monitoring violence in the region say there is no evidence that suggests that Christians are killed more than Muslims and other religious groups in Nigeria. This comes as a suicide bomber detonated explosive inside a mosque in Nigeria's Borno state on Christmas Day, killing 5 worshipers and injuring 35. So in other words, they're basically saying, well, no, the Christians are not being killed. But the problem, and it's so bad that they're even trying to ascribe other motives as to why this is taking place. And here's one interview example of the sort of madness that the Democratic Party is trying to push.
Please.
Actually, it is true. Jabo village is a relatively peaceful farm village. In fact, where even the bomb landed is a farmland. There has never been terror attack in that area. And if you are targeting, according to what he said, Muslims that are killing Christians, that area is almost 99% Muslims. So who are the Christians there that the Muslims are killing? So you see that it's just pure.
Yeah, the Muslim or the Christians that they're killing, well, let's just put it this way. They've killed, right? They've already killed them. And there are tons of examples and tons of videos online where you can go and you can see where they're talking about that. And I'll just share a couple of them with you right now.
I know they have recorded the corpses that are here at the mortuary. But when the corpses are in the grave, 2 or 3 will be open. And I want the world to know we are not putting empty coffin in the ground. I challenge Sheikh Gumi let us see. Nigerian government have already handed us over to terrorists by saying there's no genocide. So now the terrorists are busting. So they are really working to send more of us in the grave. They have gone to America.
So I am Reverend Yakubu Muton. I am a pastor with the Church of Christ in Nations. But this is my village. This is Mayanga. Mayanga is in Bokos local government, Plateau State of Nigeria. What really happened here is not only in this village that were affected by this crisis. We're affected by more than 11 villages, which Mayanga happens to be one. And in these villages, it is the same method of attack that was conducted. It's the killing, the maiming of people, slaughtering them, and burning of their houses and their foodstuffs and properties. So by now, by the record we have already collected, we have over 150 people that are killed in one day. That is on the 24th of December. That is, the Christmas was just not a Christmas to us, like to celebrate. It was a mourning Christmas because of what happened to us. As you could see, I'm standing here. This is my house in my village, and I lost everything that was in the house, both food stuff, clothing, and whatever. It was a furnished house, but it is burnt. And even the church that is by my side was burnt, and the pastorium is burnt. Everything about us here in this village is confused. As you could see, that everything is destroyed. But we thank God that some of us are alive. And at the cost of this, like me now, I lost 7 of my brothers at the cost of this crisis that happened. Thank you.
I'm rising today to seek an emergency debate on the genocide being carried out against Nigerian Christians, Mr. Speaker. One of the worst mass kidnappings ever reported in Nigeria occurred on Friday, where more than 300 school children were abducted from St. Mary's Catholic School after an attack by armed men. Since Boko Haram launched its insurgency in 2009, the impact on Christian communities has been devastating. Millions have been driven from their homes. Hundreds have lost their lives in targeted violence. Entire villages have been wiped out. Families torn apart. Children forced to abandon their faith, and communities left in ruin. Terrorist groups like Boko Haram, Fulani militias, the ISWAP continue to carry out these brutal attacks with alarming precision.
That was a gentleman serving in Parliament there in Canada who was talking about this. And folks, for those who are paying attention, it is all over the news. And the fact that they are just flat out, the left is just flat out denying that Christians are being attacked. And here's the problem: they're taking the word of the people who are doing the killing. Just like they're taking the word of the Palestinian Authority for of how many people have died or what's taking place there in Gaza. They're basically picking a side, and they're taking just flat out their word for it. Anyway, I just wanted people to know and understand that there is rhyme behind his reason. And I get it. There are some people who are just flat out, they don't want us involved in anything. If it ain't specific to the United States, if it ain't America, there are some people who are America only. They're not even America first, they're America only, and they don't want us involved in any foreign entanglements or anything like that. But I think in this particular case, I think it makes sense. And here's the reason why I think it makes sense. Number one, part of the United States, part of what makes us who we are, is our support of Judeo-Christian values. And part of that is freedom of religion. And when someone is being denied their freedom of religion, in particular those who support Judeo-Christian values, and they're being systematically slaughtered. We're not talking about war. We're talking about slaughtered. We're talking about kidnapped. We're talking about raped. We're talking about all of these various different things that are happening to Nigerian Christians. We have, I don't want to say a moral obligation, but it would behoove us to stand up for those who are in need, to stand up for those folks. In particular, when doing so doesn't really cost us a lot, we don't have to sacrifice a lot. Some missiles in this case. We don't have boots on the ground, right? We're not we they're Nigeria is not a particularly, important or strong trading partner, such that, if we have negative relations with them, it's going to severely harm our economy. I mean, there's no real reason why we wouldn't stand up to a bully that is allowing this to happen, and the best part about this is we didn't attack the government. The government actually gave us permission. They deny that there is a Christian genocide going on. They believe that, yeah, people are being killed, but they deny that religion has anything to do with it. Um, but once again, if we have the support of the government to go after these folks, well, then once again, I think it's something that we need to do. But I also think it's something that's important that we tell the truth, that we let people know what is going on. What I find very frustrating with folks on the left, and I got into it with a friend of mine. I'll say he's a friend of mine, is that the left is flat out lying. And then you watch programs like Democracy Now, or you look at like Mother Jones, or you look at the Huffington Post, and or even many of the mainstream media outlets like the left-leaning MSNBC. They are flat out either lying and misrepresenting the truth, or they're not telling the stories of what is going on, meaning they're showing their bias by what they're choosing to report on. In other words, they'll report on the bombings, on the attack, but they won't report on the reason and the rationale behind the attack, which is specifically the genocide of Nigerian Christians. They won't say anything about it, won't say a word about it. Now, they're not reporting like left-wing propaganda. They're just not, they're just not reporting the whole truth and nothing but the truth. They're hedging, and they often do that. They do that a whole lot. I see it. Clients that I work with that work in ethnic media. Everyone's talking about the bombing on Nigeria. Nobody's talking about why it's happening. And this is in an industry. I'll give you an example, like with the black newspapers, where I can tell you almost all of the publishers are Christian. I mean, the overwhelming majority of black newspaper publishers are Christians, yet they are not reporting on the genocide against Nigerian Christians in Africa, in Nigeria. They're not reporting on it. They're not talking about it at all. But I'll bet you groups like NNPA, which is a national black publisher or news service, I'll bet you they'll have something about Donald Trump's strike on Nigeria and claim that he's attacking Nigerians. You see, Democracy Now! Is already saying, well, he's trying to appease his MAGA base. I'm sure if I read a little bit further, because he's going after third world people of color, that's probably what they're insinuating. A group called Word in Black, I know that's probably, you'll see some stuff come out of there, because the opinion editorials that tend to be political only come from the left-wing folks over there. They're not telling the truth, and the worst part is they're doing their readers a disservice. And that's why I always tell people, look, I don't get my news from one source. I get it from the right. I get it from the left. I get it from ethnic media. I get it from mainstream media. I get it from television. I get it from radio. I get it from podcasts. I look all over the place. And even with that, I dig, I research, I fact check. Because I know that not everybody out there is telling the whole story. And if they are telling and usually they're telling a story, but they're telling a story because they want to tell a narrative. And that narrative doesn't necessarily include all of the facts. Anyway, that's what's happening here. So yes, there is a reason why he is doing it. And no, I do not believe that this violates his America First beliefs. But because, by the way, just so you know, America First, Donald Trump made it. Donald Trump invented it. Donald Trump decides. I'm sorry. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily America First or I agree with everything America First, because guess what? Donald Trump sometimes chooses stuff, sometimes says stuff that I'm like, yeah, I don't necessarily get down with that. And that's okay. I don't agree with anybody 100% on anything. Right? And if I believe he's wrong on something, you've seen the show, I'll say I think he's wrong. But I say that about Democrats too. When Democrats do something right, which seldom happens, but when they do something right, I tell you, hey, yeah, that was good. They did that right. They almost never do. I mean, since we've been doing the show, I mean, sadly, it's been mostly Joe Biden, and we all know what a cluster F his presidency was. Anyway, yeah, so that is an interesting one right there. Just keep an eye on it. Definitely keep an eye on it. Hopefully, the world community, and what I'm hoping is we'll start to see now that we've done these strikes on Christmas Day, which, hey, if they're Muslim, not really a big holy day for them. See, we did it, we did it on one of our holidays, not on one of their holidays. Interestingly enough, I don't know. There may be. By the way, yeah, there may be a Muslim holiday during that day. I don't know. I don't follow the Muslim faith well enough to know. So before y'all start commenting, well, it was Ramadan or something like that. Look, I don't know. I just know though it is somewhat symbolic that it was done on Christmas evening. Anyway, so yeah, don't let the left fool you when they come at you with their lies, trying to tell you exactly what's going on with that. All right, next up, door-to-door search is being launched for illegals accused of fraud there in Minnesota. And this is the thing, folks, and I'm gonna say that I've said this once, and I will say this over and over again. These searches, the raids that are taking place, that ICE is conducting in, these are not just random, we're just going to drive down the street and pick up who we pick up, right? They are actually doing research. First of all, yeah, they're doing research and they're trying to identify where these folks are at. When I say these folks, I mean criminal illegal aliens, meaning they either have committed a crime or been accused of a crime since they've been here in the United States and they are not here legally. Or there has been a order of deportation already issued, meaning they're already supposed to be removed, right? They've already gotten their quote unquote due process and it's time for them to go. It's been deemed that they're supposed to be out. Now, in places where they do not, no, normally where you will find these folks is in jail, right? They've already been locked up, right? But in places where the law enforcement doesn't work with ICE agents, they have to go out into the community where they believe these folks are at. And so they've done their investigations, they've done their research, and it turns out, so for example, when they pull over a car, people are like, oh, well, they're just randomly pulling people over because they're black or brown, because they're brown or black. No, they pulled them over because the vehicle which they are driving is registered to a person who has been deemed a criminal illegal alien, meaning he's already had an issue of deportation or he's committed a crime since he's been here. Now, sometimes what happens is in that car, there are other people. And sometimes those other people, they don't know who the person is until they show them ID, and they refuse to show ID. And so they are detained until they can prove who they are and that they are a citizen. Now, I think in the entire time it's been happening, I think I saw a report where they said that 170 U.S. citizens have been detained. Now, what they did not do is they did not distinguish between those who were citizens and did nothing and were simply detained because they couldn't determine their citizenship status, and those who were detained because they attacked or otherwise attempted to impede ICE from doing their jobs. They don't distinguish that because obviously the media doesn't want to distinguish that because they don't want you to know, they didn't get taken because they were American citizens. They got held, not deported. They got detained because they were obstructing or delaying an officer in the performance of their duty, which is the traditional, I think it's called a 98 or 198, 148. Anyway, it's basically you know it as resisting arrest, but it's obstructing or delaying an officer in the performance of their duty. Anyway, so now what's happening is now that we've got the reports of billions of dollars, and I say billions, it's literally the largest fraud case in the entire in American history that we're talking about here. The largest case of fraud in American history that's taken place. and it's taking place right there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it's happened largely when I say largely, I mean of the 84 people or 80 some odd people who have been arrested, charged, and once again, and convicted, all but 8 were former Somali nationals. So, yeah, it's overwhelmingly happening and a part of that community. So they've decided now, ICE has basically decided, well, you know what? Here's a place where we know crime is taking place and it's overwhelming. They're overwhelmed by a huge number of those who are in the country illegally. So I think we're going to go ahead and enforce. And so, as reported by the New York Post, DHS launches door-to-door search for illegal immigrants at accused fraud sites in Minneapolis. ICE agents Monday targeted Minnesota sites suspected of the state's sprawling billion-dollar fraud scheme in a bid to root out potential illegal immigrants amid the shameful scandal, authorities said. DHS is on the ground in Minneapolis, going door to door at suspected fraud sites. The Department of Homeland Security posted on X, along with a video of a pair of DHS agents entering Nicolette Tobacco and Vape in Burnsville, about 17 miles from Minneapolis. The American people deserve answers on how their taxpayer money is being used and arrests when it's found. Authorities are looking into as much as $9 billion that may have been stolen in a mind-boggling social services scam they say was predominantly orchestrated by members of the state's Somali community. Quote, right now, Minneapolis, Homeland Security investigations and ICE are on the ground conducting large-scale investigations on fraudulent daycare and healthcare centers, as well as other rampant fraud. DHS Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement to the Post. So yeah, what they're doing is they're basically saying, look, we know crime is taking place here. Let us go and let us find out if any of these folks who are conducting these crimes are illegal. So let's get them off the street. They're using it as a pretext, and I don't blame them for doing it. Just know that if you are working at one of these facilities, know that if you are an illegal immigrant, if you're in the country illegally, you may not, you may need to do what you need to do, right? Just know that someone's going to be coming by. If you're a legal resident, how about you take your social security card with you? How about you take, I think they, I was just gonna say your driver's license, but I think they hand out driver's licenses in Minnesota to illegal immigrants. So that's probably not enough to prove you're a citizen, but your social security card should work. That's something that ought to work for you, right? Just be prepared. That would be my suggestion. If you know they're coming, be prepared to prove your citizenship. My guess is, by the way, when they show up, if you run, they're going to assume that you have committed a crime. And in most jurisdictions, they have the right to do that. If they show up and identify themselves as law enforcement and you run, that gives them permission. It is okay for them to believe that to have a probable cause that you are either in the midst of or have committed a crime, and it gives them the ability to then detain you, shall we say? Anyway, this is all going to be very, very interesting. Once again, for those of you who don't know, who haven't watched this on the show, one of the ways in which they got away with this was because members of the Somali community, as well as within the Walls administration, made it very clear that when whistleblowers came forward and said, hey, there's something kind of hinky going on here, they were told, leave it alone, or we're going to file civil rights violations and you're going to be accused of being a racist. Now, these are people who work in the social services. They're probably more than likely liberal, which means the one thing they do not ever want to be classified as, the one thing they are deathly scared of is being called racist. So they didn't say anything. They didn't do anything. They just kind of let it go. And now you see the result. This is what you got. You got people who are flat out lying. Not hard to figure out how that works, is it? Not hard at all to figure out how it works. But yet, if you say something, well, that makes you a racist, right? If you dare point it out, you're a racist. Anyway, I don't know exactly. It's 1-4. Brett Daniels, good friend, used to be a deputy sheriff here in Sacramento County, California. Now has since traveled to another state. I don't forget which state you said you were moving to, Brett. But you're right. It's a 148, which is obstructing or delaying an police officer in the performance of their duties. Thank you so much for that comment, Brent. Anyway, these folks now, well, first of all, what we're going to find is this is not going to be just isolated there in Minnesota. We've already seen cases in Maine. We've seen cases now in Massachusetts. And it's not, I'll bet you dollars to donuts. It's not just isolated to the Somali community either. We know in California, we know that there was tons of fraud. We know in California that during the COVID money, we know that something like $30 billion, $20 billion in unemployment money went to people who shouldn't have gotten it, including people who are in prison. Yes, collecting unemployment while in prison. Go figure. But when you create these social welfare programs, these handout programs, and you don't put any guardrails on them, you don't place into them any accountability, money just goes flowing. We know right now, homeless programs, billions of dollars have come into the state of California. And the California legislature and the people who administered those programs can't tell you where the money went. They have no idea. The one thing that they do know is that after spending billions in federal and billions in state money, homelessness went up in the state of California. In fact, we have the highest percentage of homeless anywhere in the country. We have the highest income inequality of anywhere in the country. We have the highest poverty rate of anywhere in the country. We have record numbers of people leaving the state of California. If it weren't for illegal immigration, we would continue to be negative in terms of inflow and outflow of populations. I tell you what is clearly still negative, and that is businesses are leaving. Businesses that are looking to expand, that are in California, that are looking to expand. Yeah, they're not expanding in California. They're expanding elsewhere. Businesses that are open in California are closing. In many cases are closing their doors in the state of California, and they're moving on to more employer-friendly states. See, anyway, they're going to lie. They're just flat out going to lie, and the left is going to lie about it. You see, Gavin Newsom, who's trying to run for governor. You see, he's out there just kind of doing his thing. Talking trash, like, oh yeah. Yeah, California's a great place. We're the fourth largest economy. Yeah, we're the fourth largest economy that doesn't produce anything. We don't produce any money. We don't produce, well, we produce wealth for the top 1%. That's because then one of the things that's helping is the fact that a lot of the places that are dealing with AI are right here in the state of California. A lot of the tech companies are right here in the state of California. That's really the only reason. Right? You're seeing this as this tech bubble goes up, as the stock market goes up, the investment class, who basically pays the overwhelming majority of the taxes in the state of California, they continue to pay taxes and they consider that a growth in the economy. The problem is that with the exception of those of us who have like a 401k or a retirement plan, we're not benefiting from that because it's not creating jobs in the rest of the economy. The rest of the economy is seeing a contraction. Anyway, all I will say is, yeah, that's when we find out how much of that is, Democrats are never going to own it. Tim Walz has never owned it, and he's still never going to own it. All of these mistakes, all of the stuff that's going on, they are never, ever, 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 ever going to own it, right? Kind of like MTG is never going to own the fact that, well, she never was really conservative. Well, I don't want to say that. I'm like, I don't want to say that. There's a difference between someone who believes in or who promotes conservative values and someone who's actually I would consider to be a culture warrior, a fighter for conservative values. Marjorie Taylor Greene is populist, but not in the way that Donald Trump is populist. Marjorie Taylor Greene got into politics for one reason. That's because she wanted to be popular. That's why that's where her interest was. She wanted to be popular. She's always spent more time focusing on her Twitter feed and who's following her on Instagram than she did on the issues that really mattered. And if you want to know how bad she was at being a Republican, consider the fact that she got kicked out of the Freedom Caucus. These are the conservatives, right? These are the Jim Jordans, the Tom McClintocks. These are the conservatives, right? These are the ideological conservatives. And well, she never really fit in. She never really was liked. She never was really respected because she would just say and do some things that were just plain dumb. But got her plenty of Twitter followers, and as soon as she got enough, as soon as she was at a point where she was like, as soon as she had enough, uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Seniority. I'm sorry, she had tenure, whatever you want to call it, there in Congress, where she could receive the congressional retirement. She's decided, okay, well, I'm not going to run anymore. And then she decided she wanted to run for Senate, or was it governor? Senate. She wanted to run for Senate. And everyone pretty much made it clear, yeah, no, you're not going to win because outside of your district, nobody likes you. Or maybe they like you, but they don't respect you and they don't think you should be in the Senate. And she didn't like the fact that they said that. And so as a result, she has turned and gone full anti-MAGA. And she's doing the whole anti-MAGA, anti-Trump, uh, anti-Trump tour. And here's what she had to say on CNN.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you have no problem calling out what the president said, but why do you think other Republicans have struggled to do so?
I can't comprehend it, but Caitlin, I'd like to point something out. Just last week, and I think the dam is breaking. Many Republicans may not have called him out, but last week, 13 Republicans voted with Democrats to overturn one of President Trump's executive orders, which enabled him to fire federal workers. We also saw Indiana Republicans vote against redistricting. He didn't call any of them traitors and call for primaries against them. But I would like to say that that is a sign where you're seeing Republicans, they're entering the campaign phase for 2026, which is a large signal that lame duck season has begun and that Republicans will go in all in for themselves in order to save their own reelections.
You think the dam is breaking in terms of the president's iron grip of support when it comes to your party?
Absolutely. Those 13 Republicans that voted to take down his executive order last week, literally that same evening put on their tuxedos and their evening ball gowns and went to the White House Christmas party. That's pretty bold.
What do you think? Do you think that message is being received at the White House?
I'm sure it's being received, and there's
So the whole point is what she's trying to say is Republicans are turning on President Trump, and the reality is no, they're not. There have always been certain Republicans who have disagreed with the president on certain things. And the reason why the president hasn't come out and denounced them, and he's been very frustrated with some of them, but, because let's just be honest, not everybody agrees with everything that he's doing. And I think there's always been a healthy skepticism with some of the things that he has wanted to do, and people who felt like it was not in the best interest of their constituents, they've stood up to him. I don't see what is wrong with that. He still shares overwhelming support amongst Republicans. He still has overwhelming support amongst Republican electeds. Now, in some cases, some of the things that they're doing or they decide to do are not going to be in line with the president because, well, let's be honest, in elections where President Trump has not been on the ballot, Republicans have not fared well. People don't see it as Trump is on the ballot, even though if Republicans lose control of the House or the Senate, it's going to be a lot harder for Trump to get anything done. It's going to be a lot harder to make some of the things that he has gotten done permanent, the things that he's done via executive order, because the next president can just come in and undo them via executive order. So yeah, a lot of folks, a lot of this stuff is great, but there are some interesting takeaways, and I like what Fox News did. They actually put together a little thing of 5 takeaways as MTG unloads in New York Times Magazine, dishing scathing criticism of Trump. So one is she says Trump says Trump does not have any faith. It says earlier this year, during remarks at the memorial service for slain conservative Charlie Kirk, Trump said of Charlie, he did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. And that's where I disagree. That's where I disagree with Charlie. I hate my opponent and I don't want the best, for them. And so she tries to use that as evidence that he doesn't have any faith. And here's the thing I will say. I don't know his faith personally. I don't, because I don't know him. I don't know what he focuses on or what he thinks about when he's making some of his decisions. But I do know this. I do know that when I look at presidents and where they've stood and their policies, his policies have been most supportive of Christian values than any president in my lifetime. I would probably say it. I can't necessarily say Reagan because I would have to go back and look at some of the policies, but then definitely more than any Democrat president. I would say more than George Bush even. So yeah, I don't know what it is that she's talking about. He's not a man of faith. She's just looking for a way to kind of tear him down is what she's doing. Says here, Green on MAGA Mar-a-Lago sexualization. Green objected to what she referred to as sexualization among MAGA women. I never liked the MAGA Mar-a-Lago sexualization. I believe how women in leadership present themselves sends a message to younger women. She noted, according to the Times, I have 2 daughters and have always been uncomfortable with how those women puff up their lips, enlarge their breasts, and I've never spoken out about it publicly. And I'm like, what? First of all, these are people who kind of were the way they were before Trump and Mar-a-Lago. I just, that whole, I'm sorry, but so you're saying because of how someone looks, that doesn't mean that they are real conservatives or MAGA. Okay. I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what exactly your point is behind that, except once again, you're focusing on externalities that really your focus on their externalities is as bad as you're claiming their focus on those externalities is. Who cares? Where do they stand on the issues? What are they saying? What are they doing? How are they advancing the cause? And if that's the worst that you have to say is you just don't like it because they got puffy lips, then I think you've really kind of missed the point. At least it's anyway. I will say this. This is one that was interesting because and the first thing I would say is here, Green says Trump lacks loyalty. The New York Times Magazine reported that Green had said regarding loyalty and Trump that it is a one-way street and it ends with whatever suits him. Now, I will say this. During his first term, that was deathly evident, right? There were so many times that he would go out and say something, and then the administration or his staff would go and try and clean it up, and he would throw them under the bus. Now, some people say, well, that's because they never should have tried to do it, and he meant what he meant. But as I've seen it, the first term in particular, that definitely seemed to be the case. In the second, I mean, if he weren't loyal, Pete Hegseth would have been gone, right? He would have gotten rid of Pete Hegseth. There are a number of people who did things or said things that weren't necessarily even in line with things that Trump has said publicly, and Trump has stood behind them. Heck, look at his chief of staff, the 10-hour interview that she did with the folks over at Vanity Fair. Some of the things that they reported on. I mean, if he weren't loyal, he would have thrown her under the bus. No, the difference is that you want people to do stuff even when they know it's wrong, Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though they know. You were mad because he's like, no, I'm not going to support you when I know that supporting you means we could lose that seat if you were to wind up in the general election. He's like, you don't have a snowball's chance of making it there. You know, I once again, I've run for office here in California, and there have been places where I've run where, you know, as a Republican, I really didn't have a very good shot at winning. And when someone didn't endorse me because they're like, look, you really don't have a shot, I didn't take it personally because I knew they're like, you know, their word has to mean something. Their endorsement has to mean something. And if you endorse someone who is basically, for lack of a better term, a sacrificial lamb, or even worse, someone who potentially is going, who you know by all the numbers is going to lose when there is likely someone else who has a good shot of winning and maintaining it, well, why should they endorse you when there's someone who's got the same values or close to it, who actually has a chance of winning? No, the problem is she's the one who lacks loyalty. And when I say lacks loyalty is she just wants people to do what she wants. And sometimes loyalty isn't just doing what people want, it's helping them do what's best for them and best for all, right? Helping them to do the right thing. And she's not interested in doing the right thing because I guarantee you right now, she's going to go and she's going to spend all of her time. She's going to do speaking tours. She's going to try and be a talking head. She's going to try and get her own program. And she's going to do exactly what she always meant to do is she's going to be a media figure, not necessarily political figure. And, you know, to be honest, being a media figure these days might actually have more power and authority and more of a play than being a member of Congress, especially when you're an outsider, a slightly dim-witted outsider like her. And yeah, I feel comfortable calling her dim-witted. I would defend that. I think I've got the facts to defend that. All right, one more story here, and this one is an interesting one, is that 75% of American adults may meet the criteria to be considered obese, right? And they outline this a little bit, and this is the story over at Good Morning America. It wasn't just a Good Morning America. This is just the one that I chose to use. It says that more than 75% of adults may meet criteria for obesity under new definition, according to a study. It says new definition of obesity could nearly double the prevalence of U.S. adults with the condition, according to a study published Monday. For decades, doctors have relied on body mass index (BMI), a tool that uses height and weight to estimate body fat to determine obesity. A team of researchers from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Harvard University, Yale, and Yale New Haven Health found that BMI alone may significantly underestimate how many adults have obesity. Using a new definition that includes waistband measurements, the team found that more than 75% of adults may meet the criteria for obesity compared to 40% under BMI alone. Now, so here's the way it works. So BMI, basically, it's your height versus your weight, right? So at certain heights, you're supposed to be certain weights. Now, I am, for example, I am 5'11", and I weigh 210 pounds. At the same time, I'm right around, I want to say, between 10 and 12% body fat, which means I'm relatively low body fat. In fact, I'm in the area considered athletic when you look at body fat ratio. But because I am more muscular, they consider that with BMI, consider it to be morbidly obese. Right. Yeah, I'm obese according to BMI. And in fact, in order to be within the weight range that is considered healthy, I would have to lose another 30 pounds. Now, mind you, keep in mind, if I'm at 10%, if I'm at like 10, 12% body fat, that means when I lose fat, I'm not just losing fat, I'm losing muscle, right? I've got to lose 20 pounds of fat and 10 pounds of muscle in order to be considered healthy. That don't sound very healthy to me. Anyway, all that having been said, so this new one, basically what it does is it measures your waist circumference, and then it measures your waist, your waist, and then your hips. And the idea is to try and find out, there's a whole formula that they do with it. It's not quite as easy as BMI to figure out. But then what they do is they then figure out, based on the idea is to try and identify how much how much weight you have or fat you have in your midsection, because that's where a lot of the visceral fat winds up being. There's subcutaneous fat, which is which sits on the surface. It's right under the skin. And then there's the visceral fat, which is on the inside, and it's like all around the muscles. I mean, all around your organs. Now, it's the visceral fat that is very, very dangerous, right? That's the one that is that basically it's a lot of the extra weight that you're carrying. It's stifling the function of your organs. You really should be working to cut and reduce visceral fat. Visceral fat's hard to see. You don't necessarily see it. Anyway, but they believe by doing this waist thing, they'll be able to more accurately figure out if someone is actually obese. I'm real curious to see exactly how that works. I'm always a fan of this. I'm always better tell people, look, I've done the hydrostatic weighing, which I think is probably the best. There's also the ones where you can go and buy the scale where you have the sensors, and they're the ones with both the sensors in the hands where you can determine. And those are not 100% accurate, but what they're really good for is it helps you to determine if you're improving or you're getting worse, or you're improving or you're getting worse. So it gives you a baseline, and then utilizing that baseline as you lose weight, you should be seeing changes in your body fat ratio, in your visceral fat, and all of that. And all that having been said, there is a reason why the weight loss drugs are becoming more and more popular, and why it's becoming easier and easier to get prescriptions for them, because more and more of us are qualifying for them. More and more people are qualifying as morbidly obese, and more people are in need of it. I don't know that we've identified all of the side effects, but I'll just say this, and this is just, my pontificating. I'll just say this. Number one, if you really, really, really are interested in losing weight, the first thing I will encourage you to do, start doing something. And when I say something, I don't mean you have to go out and do vigorous exercise. Start by walking, right? Start by just getting out, committing a certain amount of time and walking, 3-4 times a week. Do something. Find a thing that you want to do. So you start off with the walking, right? Do it for 3 weeks. Then add something else. Maybe you pick up the pace. Maybe you make it a more visceral walk, right? Maybe you cut out sugar, right? I know people who flat out lost 10 to 15 pounds just by stopping drinking soda. Yeah, I've literally seen people, they switch over, they get away from processed sugars, and they'll lose weight just by doing that over time, right? Get into doing at least twice a week some sort of resistance training. You don't have to go and lift a bunch of weights. They've got those bands you can do. There's you've seen them on Facebook. There's tons of things on Facebook, exercise where you can do plyometrics where you don't even need really any equipment, maybe a chair, right? Things that you can do in order to increase your lean muscle, because lean muscle burns fat, right? Lean muscle burns fat even when you're sitting. That's why I always tell people, if you really are you're not interested in losing weight, you're interested in losing fat, unnecessary excess fat. Well, muscles burn energy when you're just sitting because they got to exist, right? So you increase your lean muscle mass. Now, I'm not talking about getting big and yoked. I'm just talking about having some muscle, right? I'm talking about getting some muscle up in there. That will help you. But anyway, when you think about one of the reasons why we had such a huge number of deaths in the United States from COVID, you want to know what the number one comorbidity was? You guessed it. It was obesity. Here we go. American Crossfire, thank you for tuning in. It says, it looked like Ozempic may be causing thyroid problem in some people. Okay, I had not seen that, but if you got a link, go ahead and share it, but I'll probably wind up Googling it here afterwards. Once again, I will just say this. I only recommend those in the most extreme of cases, because ultimately, here's the thing. The medication itself will not be enough, because as soon as you come off the medication, you're right back into the same problem, right? You got to get yourself to the point where you are, in the end, You're expending more calories than you're taking in. That's how you lose weight, right? Once you get to the desired weight, then you got to make sure that the number of calories that you're expending is within the range of the calories that you're intaking. It's really that simple. I wish I could. I wish I could tell you a harder way. It's simple, but here's the thing: it's simple but not easy. Don't let me tell you it's easy, because it takes some discipline, and it takes some focus and some discipline on being committed to going out and once again and exercising and developing a plan and sticking to the plan, and then some discipline in terms of not eating some of the things that you shouldn't be eating, or at least not eating them all the time, right? Making sure that they are the exception and not the rule. Anyway, I will now get off of my soapbox. I know that a lot of folks right now really don't care. Once the holidays are over, then you'll probably say, okay, what do I need to be doing? Well, I'm telling you right now, start thinking about it now so that you can hit the ground running at the beginning of the new year. That's right. Patrick over at the Gun Food says discipline and dedication. Now that is a man who was, well, let's say he's lost a lot. He's lost a lot of weight. Not only has he lost a lot of weight, but he's kept it off, right? You look at him now compared to where he was at one point. I mean, he lost a lot of weight. He did he says he did the carnivore diet, which is, well, once again, which is a good diet. I'm not into the carnivore diet myself. Oh, let me clarify. I go high protein. I do so much physically that it's hard for me to just do protein, because I need some of the energy from the carbs. But I've done a high protein, low carb diet. And mostly when I do the carbs, it's in the mornings before I do my physical exercise. So that's usually where you'll find the carbs in those diets. Anyway, I got way off track and I'm heading way over time here. We're going to go ahead and head on and get into our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word. Get your Hog Holster today on discount. And our parting shots today are going to be brought to you by the friends over at the Babylon Bee. Fake news that you can trust. And by the way, just a correction, that was American Crossfire who said that they did the carnivore diet, not Patrick. Patrick, I would love to have you share with folks what you did that helped you out. Anyway, says here, Trump gives terrorists gift of meeting Allah for Christmas. See, and they say he doesn't care. All right, our next two are more tied to our good friend Mr. Tim Walz, or Tampon Tim, as we like to refer to him. Says here, Walz announces $8 billion grant to Somali company to investigate fraud. Yeah, that's some dumb stuff that he would do. That is pretty much in line with some of the idiocy that I think he would be okay with. And then finally, Babylon Bee would like to inform Tim Walz we are now a functioning daycare in Minnesota. So kick him down some cash, I think is what they are asking. Oh, I love the Babylon Bee. Folks, look, if you have not subscribed to the Babylon Bee, let me tell you, you need to do it. And here's the reason why. I never read the articles. I don't. But I get a kick, like many of you do. I get a kick off of the headlines. They make me laugh. Every day they make me laugh. And if you want them to continue to exist, it costs money. It costs money to have people, to pay people to run the website, manage the website. It costs money to have people market it. It costs money to have writers write. It costs money to do all of the videos. And really what you're doing is you're helping people buy back their time. Buy their time from whatever thing they otherwise would be doing to be able to put out this content, to make us laugh, to provide a different perspective. That's why I'm telling you, support conservative media. You know, if they ask you to subscribe. If they ask you to maybe, make a donation, make a donation. If they ask you to visit their sponsors, visit their sponsors. Do that because you help them, right? You help them, right? They are then helped by the sponsors. Folks, if we're not going to support one another, right? If we're not going to support one another, then it doesn't really help, right? It doesn't really do us any good. You can't be surprised when we don't have any conservative voices, when the conservative voices are all having to go do day jobs, when they're having to leave doing and producing the content that you enjoy, that you want to see more of, that you'd like to see in mainstream media. The only way they become mainstream media is with your support. So take the time to support them. And I'm going to start by encouraging you, please visit our sponsors, Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length at hitmanindustries.net. The California Republican Assembly, electing Republicans, conservative Republicans at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Check them out at cragop.org. They are the conscience of the Republican Party. And you've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hawgholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, because they are helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, you have the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun. It would be uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. We're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to have a good time tomorrow. Appreciate you guys commenting. Feel free to chime in. I want to hear from you. I really, 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 really do. Let us know what's up. Let us know what you think. Once again, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Encourage your friends to do the same. And with that, I am out. We will see you mañana.